Hi, I'm Donna. I'm 38 years old and recently left a marriage that felt suffocating. Breaking up with my husband, Michael, was like finding real freedom. Let me tell you about our story. I first met Michael on a blind date set up by a mutual friend. He was very good-looking and had a charming personality right from the start. Michael seemed like the perfect match for me. We had a lot in common and our conversations flowed naturally. For the first 7 months, we casually dated and enjoyed planning fun activities together. When we decided to officially be a couple, we continued with our exciting outings. About a year into our relationship, we moved in together. It was then that I realized Michael had some financial struggles. Even though I tried to help him improve his job situation, he didn't take my advice seriously. Despite this, he made enough money to get by, and I was okay with supporting us financially. After 3 years of being together, we got married. A year later, we decided to buy a house. Because my credit score was better, we put the mortgage in my name, which turned out to be a wise decision. However, after 4 years of marriage, I started noticing changes in Michael's behavior. He became more demanding and stopped helping with household chores, claiming he was too busy with work. Even though I understood and tried to manage everything on my own, the burden became too much. I talked to Michael about this issue, and he would promise to improve briefly, but then we would fall back into the same patterns. It was frustrating, but I continued because I loved him and wanted to support him fully. Unfortunately, our relationship suffered, especially when it came to enjoying leisure activities. I simply didn't have the time or energy. It was during this tough time that I discovered Michael was being unfaithful, which made me reassess our relationship and decide to end the marriage. I stumbled upon his affair unexpectedly. His phone was left unlocked while he showered, and when I went to charge it, I noticed a message from a woman named Isabella asking when he would leave his pathetic wife to meet her at a nearby motel. I was shocked and heartbroken. I couldn't believe Michael was capable of cheating. Our marriage seemed solid, we rarely argued, and he always seemed warm towards me. The pain was overwhelming. I felt like my world was falling apart. At that moment, I knew I had to confront the situation. I left his phone as it was, with a message open, so he would know I had seen it. When Michael came out of the shower and saw his phone, he realized I knew about the affair. He tried to avoid talking about it, but I was determined. "I know about the affair. Let's talk about it," I said. "I don't think we should," he replied. "Who is she? I'm sure you saw enough to know her name." "When did it start?" "A year ago." "Can we not do this right now?" "Why did you start seeing her?" "Please, let's not do this." "Don't call me babe, tell me." "I don't know. I guess I just missed the thrill of someone new, someone who's on the same wavelength as me. So I'm not on the same wavelength as you." "Well, I wouldn't say that exactly. It's just, you've become a bit dull. I mean, you never want to go out, you're always tired, and even our social life, our intimate life, has faded. Do you realize I'm always tired because I handle all the chores and work full-time? You've never once offered to help out. That's just your role as my wife. I told you to stay at home, but you refused. That still doesn't excuse you from contributing to the house." This confrontation marked a turning point, revealing our vastly different views on marriage and responsibilities. His words shattered the trust and respect I thought we had. "I'm the head of the house. I can do whatever I want. And if that means having an affair for some fun, then so be it." Michael's words were cutting, and he asserted his distorted view of freedom within our marriage. I had hoped we could discuss this and mend our relationship, but his stance made it clear that wouldn't happen. "I don't think anything will change. You're just too dull. I'm happy to stay married, but I'll continue seeing Isabella. I need some space from you," he declared, devoid of regret, and then retreated to another room. His words weighed heavily on me. He was unapologetic and dismissive, reducing me to merely a role within our home. Despite never holding such outdated views on gender roles before, Michael had been influenced by podcasts preaching that women were too outspoken and needed to be put in their place. It was devastating to witness his transformation into someone who not only embraced these ideas but refused to see their harm. Shortly after, I heard the main door close. Michael had left to meet Isabella alone. Overwhelmed by a sense of abandonment and betrayal, I broke down, unable to bear the solitude and storm of emotions. I phoned my best friend Judy. She answered immediately, hearing the distress in my voice. Judy arrived swiftly, armed with comforting hugs and tubs of ice cream. She didn't press for details, Instead, she simply held me as I cried. When I finally calmed down enough, I opened up about the painful revelation. Michael was cheating on me. Judy, it's true. Are you sure? Judy asked, concern etching her face. Absolutely. His phone was unlocked, and I saw a message from a woman asking when he was leaving his pathetic wife to meet her. What the hell? Did you confront him about it? Yes, I did. Judy stayed with me through the night, providing silent, steadfast support as I faced the reality of my crumbling marriage. As we sat together, the weight of my situation sank in, but I knew I wasn't alone. I finally confronted him and learned the painful truth. He had been cheating on me for a year, citing that I had become too boring. According to him, I was always too tired and never up for anything fun. Although I managed practically everything at home, he dismissed my efforts, claiming that was my role as his wife. Really? Well then, his role as a husband should have been more honorable. But instead, here he is, cheating on his wife, I remarked to Judy, still reeling from the shock. Judy shook her head in disbelief. That's just a pathetic excuse. Did he even apologize? Not for a moment, I replied. He just blamed me and chose to spend the night with her. Honestly, Judy, if I had to face him now, I don't know what I'd do. So, what do you think about doing next? I don't know. Michael mentioned he doesn't mind staying married, but there's no way I can continue like this. Listen, why don't you stay with me until you figure things out? I'll help you through everything, Judy offered. That would be amazing. Thank you so much, Judy. I really appreciate your support. We spent the rest of the evening trying to unwind, watching our favorite movies. It was a needed distraction, but the reality of my situation lingered in the back of my mind. The next morning, Judy helped me pack some things to take to her place. While settling in at Judy's, curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to look up Isabella. I still had access to Michael's social media on my phone, a privilege I never abused before because I trusted him completely. I discovered that he had muted notifications for messages from Isabella, which explained why the affair had stayed hidden until now. Turns out, Isabella was a coworker of his, someone who reported directly to him. She was 30, a whole 8 years younger than me and 11 years younger than Michael. That realization alone was enough to turn my stomach. This discovery only cemented my decision. I needed to divorce Michael. I couldn't stand the betrayal, nor could I live with someone who saw me as merely an obligation. With Judy's unwavering support, I began to take steps toward reclaiming my life and dignity. Before I could file for divorce, I needed to sort a few things out. Judy and I spent some time strategizing not only about the logistics of the separation, but also about how to move forward with strength and grace. My first step was to safeguard my finances by transferring all the money I had contributed to our joint account into my personal account, which Michael couldn't access. In the following days, as I set the wheels in motion to file for divorce, I heard nothing from Michael. It stung realizing he hadn't even bothered to check in on me. This indifference seemed to underscore how little he valued our relationship. When I eventually returned home to collect more of my belongings, I found Michael lounging on the couch. His reaction upon seeing me was predictable yet irritating. "Where have you been? Why haven't you told me about your whereabouts?" he demanded, his voice filled with faint concern that didn't mask his real detachment. "Why do I need to explain myself to you? You haven't called once." "Don't pretend to care now," I retorted, my patience wearing thin. "I'm sorry, but discovering your infidelity because you found me too boring doesn't exactly inspire politeness," I added sarcastically. Michael seemed taken aback but quickly shifted the conversation to finances. "I noticed you withdrew a large sum from our joint account," he said, trying to sound casual yet clearly concerned. "Yes, I took back my money. Why should I let you squander what I've worked hard to earn?" I challenged him. "What do you think you're doing? You need to put that money back," he demanded, his tone turning threatening. "Or what, Michael? You'll kick me out, move in with Isabella, and have your sister move in here." I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. "Put the money back in 3 hours or I'll make sure everything changes by tomorrow," he threatened. I responded with silence, walking past him to our room. I quickly packed the rest of my clothes and essentials, leaving him to stew in his frustration. Back at Judy's place, I relayed the entire encounter. Judy was furious on my behalf and insisted we consult a lawyer immediately. Luckily, she knew someone who could help. We met with her lawyer friend, who first asked about the house. I explained that both the mortgage and the house title were in my name alone, a result of my well-paying job in a niche field. This detail was crucial as it meant I had significant leverage in the upcoming legal proceedings. With Judy's support and the lawyer's guidance, I felt a bit more prepared to face the challenges ahead. Earning significantly more than Michael, it made sense for me to handle the mortgage and buy our house, establishing it entirely in my name. This financial arrangement was straightforward and seemed most practical given our respective incomes. Everything the house needed was purchased by me. When I consulted with my lawyer about the impending divorce, we discussed the next steps and how to protect my interests moving forward. He reassured me that the house would legally remain under my name, which lifted a weight off my shoulders. He also explained that if Michael's sister, Karen, moved in without my consent, I could easily issue an eviction notice. Despite the tension, Michael informed me the next morning that Karen had moved in because I hadn't reversed the money transfer. I kept the conversation brief, which only infuriated him more, and he ended the call abruptly. Following my lawyer's advice, I started recording all conversations with Michael to have a reliable record for potential use in court. My strategy going forward was clear, though it had two possible outcomes. I would serve Karen the eviction notice, and if she complied, that would be the end of it. If not, I was prepared to take legal action. Given our strained history, I suspected it wouldn't be straightforward. Karen had always shown a peculiar animosity towards me, often mirroring or trying to outshine me in petty ways. She even attempted to disrupt our wedding and consistently competed with me in trivial matters. Over the years, our relationship had deteriorated to the point where I had to limit contact with her. Michael, overly protective and indulgent towards his sister, often placed me in uncomfortable positions. Karen's resentment grew when she realized she couldn't surpass me in certain areas of life, leading her to petty thefts from our home. Whenever she visited, I would notice missing items, designer clothes, shoes, and skincare products. Michael would implore me to overlook these incidents, rationalizing that Karen's frugal lifestyle justified her taking some luxuries from us. I strongly disagreed with this and eventually forbade her from visiting our home altogether. This decision did not sit well with Michael or Karen, but Michael was powerless to challenge it given the legal standings and my control over the property. The situation was complex, but I was determined to stand my ground and proceed with the actions needed to protect my interests and ensure a just resolution to our marital breakdown. Having had enough of Karen's antics and a considerable amount of theft she committed from me, I explained the extent of her actions to Michael. He understood that the damage was far beyond what could be easily rectified. However, that didn't stop Karen from trying to provoke me further. One day, she called to flaunt her temporary triumph. "Hello, Donna. Guess where I am right now," she taunted. "Michael told me you've moved in," I replied, keeping my tone even. "That's right. I have this huge and glorious house all to myself, something you don't," she gloated. "I think I still do have the house. I've already sent an eviction notice your way, and you have 4 days to move out," I informed her calmly. "Ha, an eviction notice from you? Like I'll follow through on that. This is my brother's house. He told me I can stay here, so I will," she retorted defiantly. "It's not his house, Karen. Regardless of what Michael told you, the legal documents show that the property is mine." Yeah, marital property or whatever, but he has all the power here. He decided this was the best thing to do, she insisted, misunderstanding the situation. "You really can't stop talking, can you? I see why my brother chose another woman," Karen snapped, hoping to hurt me further. "Well, okay, I have nothing more to say. Goodbye," I ended the call, not before hearing Karen's spiteful laughter. If she didn't vacate within the given 4 days, I was fully prepared to take her to court. I had all the legal backing I needed. Unsurprisingly, Karen informed Michael of our conversation, and within an hour, he called furiously questioning my audacity to send her an eviction notice. Like before, I chose not to respond to his anger. In the next 4 days, 2 significant things happened. First, I had the divorce papers delivered to Michael, and shockingly, he decided to contest them. Second, Karen had still not moved out. I followed through with my threat and had a court summons sent to her. Legally, she was considered a squatter. When Karen received the summons, she was visibly shocked to discover that the house was in my name, not her precious brothers. She confronted me, accusing me of tricking her. I did no such thing, I told her firmly. I gave you ample warning and time to leave. I even warned you to move out. The reality of her situation was finally starting to dawn on her, and I was ready to uphold my rights no matter what. Karen refused to heed my warnings, and ultimately she had to face the consequences in court. My lawyer presented a solid case, including the eviction notice and recordings of phone calls where I repeatedly asked Karen to vacate the premises, and she blatantly refused. In my state, squatting is considered a serious offense, and as a result, Karen was charged with a Class A misdemeanor and fined $650. The look of utter defeat and humiliation on her face was a sight I found deeply satisfying. After enduring years of her antagonism, the court proceedings settled. Michael and Karen, still unable to accept their defeat, confronted me at Judy's place. "Where have you been staying? How could you do that to my little sister?" Michael demanded. "Your little sister has been making my life miserable for years, and I finally put a stop to it in the only way I knew how. A decision you initially agreed with. Yet, the moment I stood up for myself, you sided with her." I responded, my frustration evident. I only did that because she had nowhere else to go after the eviction. I was doing her a favor, Michael argued. So the house suddenly became an option because we were separating. If we weren't, would you have sneaked her in? I countered. Michael stumbled over his words, but I cut him off. "Save it, Michael. I don't want to hear any more. I'll just see you in court." "How is the house even in your name? Your brother's name isn't on any of the documents. I have been the one paying off the mortgage and making other repairs meticulously for the past 4 years. No matter how much your brother contests it in court, he won't get any ownership of the house. All he'll get is a much lighter wallet," Karen interjected, clearly not understanding the legal footing. "You think I set him up? I did nothing of the sort. Your brother believes in being the man of the house. Yet he avoided any real responsibilities, preferring instead that I do all the hard work while he reaped the benefits. Thank God that won't be my problem anymore," I retorted, my patience exhausted. With that, I slammed the door in their faces, ending the conversation. In the weeks that followed, Michael, realizing he would not win the house, decided to contest every single possession we shared, down to the most trivial items like our dessert spoons. The battle was petty and exhausting, but I was prepared to fight for my peace and freedom no matter how long it took. I was completely unbothered by Michael's attempts to claim our shared possessions. For every piece of furniture and item he claimed as his, I had the receipts clearly showing who had paid for them. In truth, he hadn't contributed much, so he was only going to get a minimal share. While Michael was preoccupied with this petty squabble, I took action on another front. I sent screenshots of his inappropriate communications with Judy to his company's HR department. Within 2 weeks, Michael was terminated from his job. Surprisingly, Isabella was not. I learned from some of Michael's colleagues, whom I had remained friendly with, that she had argued Michael coerced her into the relationship by threatening her professional standing. Understandably, their relationship did not survive this revelation. It took some time, but eventually, the divorce was finalized and I was officially free to celebrate my newfound freedom and a successful resolution of a complex situation. Judy and I enjoyed a long celebration. It felt like a double victory. The last update I received on Michael and Karen was less than glamorous. They ended up living together in a modest apartment, both struggling to find jobs. Their parents were supporting them with a modest allowance, but they were far from pleased with their actions. My former in-laws even reached out to apologize for their children's behavior, a gesture that helped bring some closure to the entire ordeal. Now free, I looked forward to what life had to offer next. The entire experience reinforced a valuable lesson to never forget my worth. It also showed me that I could handle myself in tough situations, a force to be reckoned with. Here's to moving forward stronger and wiser. Cheers.